Good morning, beautiful. It's lovely to see you. Lovely to be out here with the crickets and this beautiful sky. I'm not going to waste any time. This is just what Wellington does sometimes. There it is. Coming from the west, right? And this huge sky, which is just painted by Gaia. Just glorious. And who needs flowers when you have a sky like this? It's just beautiful. So I'm very glad that I can show it to you, because here it is, and this is what's directly above. It's just this massive pattern. Hi Mike, look at this. This is the sky directly above my head. Morning Robin, morning beautiful beings. This is just beautiful. This is Wellington at its absolute best. These big skies, and we haven't even had a huge wind. It's just because you can get them after there's been a storm, but wow, really. So I'm just so pleased that I can show this to you, because it's glorious. It's just beautiful here. I know I've already done it once, but I want to do it again. It's too beautiful not to show you this again, because of course it changes moment to moment. The sky is tiger striped. Oh, sun in my eye. But yeah, there it is. That's the beautiful thing today. It's like the waves on the seashore, except it's in the sky. The patterns, of course, repeat everywhere. So there it is. The beautiful, beautiful skies this morning. I'm so pleased I could show you. And today, it's Monday for me. Probably Sunday for you, unless you're in Asia Pacific. And I want to talk about, it's a comment that I spotted on a post last week, and someone asked a question, so I'll explain in a minute, and I thought that's a really good question, so I decided to talk about it. Now the post was something like, stop taking advice from people you don't want to be like, which is, sensible. And the question was, why do we do that? And I thought that was a really good question, so I thought about it. And I thought, why would somebody do that? Why would they? And really the short conclusion I came to was that the only reason somebody would take advice from somebody that they don't actually like, or don't want to be like, or whatever it is, because they somehow feel they have to. Because why else would you do it? But presumably they would not realise that that was why they were taking the advice from that person that they don't like. At least some of the time we follow people's advice or their prompts or their impositions or their coercion because we feel we have to. And some of the time I think we do it because consciously we think, well, that's somebody I'm supposed to respect or emulate, or that's someone I'm supposed to be like. But it actually, bottom line, at some stage you have to stop and ask yourself, why am I taking advice from this person that I don't like? What's the deal? Why on earth would I do that? And the thing is, we do so much on automatic. We really do. We do it on automatic. We don't realise. We just think, well, this person said that to me and I need to do that because blah, blah, blah. But we don't really think about what our reasons are. It's just we're running on automatic. We're running a program that says that person is someone I should listen to. But maybe they're not. Maybe they're not. Maybe we think there's someone we should listen to or take advice from, or have direction from, or say yes to. This sort of goes, it's very aligned to this whole thing of saying yes and no. But this is a specific aspect of that, if you like. What's driving you to say yes to someone When if you actually stop and look and think, hold on a minute, this doesn't actually feel good to me. Now, why does it matter if it doesn't feel good to you? Well, remember, if you're having a bad feeling, that bad feeling is associated with, in fact generated by, the hormones of stress. Something is stressing you. Now, it doesn't mean that every time we're afraid or whatever, that's for the wrong reason. Sometimes we're afraid because we have to face up to something in ourselves, we have to overcome something, whatever. I'm not saying that you should always feel peachy keen and blissful 100% of the time, because we all know that's just a really silly expectation to have, and you're setting yourself up to feel miserable because you're not. You feel miserable because you're miserable, and then it's like, oh. So, that's not what I'm talking about. But if there's somebody who's giving you advice, or who is some kind of role model, or some kind of guidance or influence or even restriction on your life, you really have to ask yourself, well, how come that's happening? And at what point do I keep choosing this? And have I been automatically choosing this? And actually, what do I really think? And here's where it takes courage. You have to look at your role models, your heroes in particular, and even the people you love to hate as well, with a really honest light and in a really unvarnished way. You actually have to face up and look at all of those people and think, now, what do I actually think about this person? And the reason that takes guts is because you can think that somebody's amazing, and yet something inside you doesn't feel good when you try to be like them, or when you do what they tell you to do. I mean, the situation of a teacher or a guru, who's actually a bit off colour. They might have been really good at one stage, and then they start to lose the plot, and they give people bad advice, and they even impose things on people that are really wrong. We all know it happens. The anti-heroes as well. You have to look at those people and think, well, if I'm feeling bad, there must be a reason for that. It doesn't automatically mean it's their fault. But what do I really think about them? And by that I mean, if you look at their life, if you look at how they're living, and not just the fact that they're rich or they're free or whatever it is, but you look at their whole life, and you look at the people around them, and you look at what they're creating and what they're not creating, what they care about, what they don't care about. You look at the whole person. You take a really good hard look at them, and you think, well, do I actually like that person? Do I like them? And if I was going to be like them, would I be proud of myself if I was? And that can be a really challenging discussion to have with yourself, because you might have to, some icons might fall from off their pedestals, and you might realise that some of these people that you've idolised don't deserve it. Or you might realise that you like an aspect or two of how a person's behaving, but there are aspects of them that you don't like at all. And you kind of have to slice and dice, and it's not about saying that person's good or that person's bad. It's about really considering in yourself who you want to be and who you want to emulate. Who are your role models? And how do you want your role models to be? Who do you want to have inspire you? And, I really relate to this very personally, because for most of my life, I kept looking for role models. I kept looking for people that I could look up to. And through no circumstances that were nobody's fault, I did not look up to my parents. I didn't have role models in teachers. No, there was just nobody. I was like this little isolated piece of flotsam floating through a massive sea of life, feeling very disconnected, and there was nobody that I thought, I want to be like that person. And, you know, people would say, oh, there's this person in this modality and that, rah, 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 and I'm excited about that and I want to do that. And I just look at them and go, nah, you know, and my no, nothing resonates for me thing. That was just always the way. Good morning, Jen. But it was kind of a pain inside me because it's like there was no template for my life. There was nothing, and no one that I could look at that made sense of things. And I didn't really realise how painful it was until I connected with Joe Dispenza in his work, and suddenly there was a key that fit in that lock. And a lock that fit in that key. And it was like, oh my goodness. Here's someone that I actually really truly want to be like. Not every aspect of his life. I'm not sure that I want to run a massive enterprise like he does. That is like, how do you do that, Joe, without completely losing the plot? It's such a massive thing to do, and so many challenges and people that you got to deal with. And so I was like, oh my God, I'd have to grow a lot to become that person. But the aspects of how much love he embodies and the passion with which he does what he does, and the fact that he lives what he teaches. So there is no difference between what he tells other people to do and what he does himself. That is huge to me. He's a bullshit-free zone. I've said that before. I'll say it many times hence. And you know, there's so much power, and there's so much love, and there's so much truth, and he does his work in service, but he is not his work. He's not confused about his identity. He is separate from his work. But he's absolutely in love with it, and in love with humanity and the potential that we all have, and bringing that out. And for the first time in my life, there was somebody that I actually thought, I can emulate that person. And it really filled a huge hole, and it still does. I still haven't seen anybody else that really I can look at and go, well, that's a role model. And it's interesting because I don't want to idolise him. I don't. But I have a great deal of love for him, for lots of reasons. Not the least of which is the work that he has made available to humanity has completely transformed me, and I'm so grateful for that, because it's been so healing. I can't say how grateful I am for the healing that I get to experience every day, and how much my life has changed, you know? So, to have someone to look up to, that you actually really relate to, is awesome. But sometimes, quite often, you have to look at a number of different people and think, well, maybe I want a little bit of this. I'm just going to walk to the front garden because those guys are setting up to make noises and do things, so let's not be distracted. You know, I want a little bit of this and I want a little bit of that. And it's actually okay to pick and choose this quality from that person and that quality from another person and this characteristic and this way of being, because it's you that you're designing, right? So you can pick and choose whatever it is that suits you from the people that you look up to, and you think, oh, okay, well, that's an amazing person. What's amazing about them? And you really have to think. It's a very thoughtful process, but also it's a feeling process, because you think, well, how do I want to feel? You know, if I was in that person's shoes, how would it feel to live that life? Would I be proud of myself? Would I like that? Would I go to sleep at the end of the day and feel really satisfied? And so, you know, I mean, this might seem really basic, and I'm thinking, what's the deal here? But if you're taking advice from people that you don't like, well, then this is what you need to do, is to actually come back to yourself and think, well, who do I want to be? And what is it that lights me up? Oh, that question used to drive me crazy, of course, because nothing lit me up, right? But maybe a better question, if that's you, is to say, well, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up in my life? You know, 2 years from now, is there something that, if I removed all constraints from my life and all the, you know, things that I couldn't do, well, what would I want to be able to look back in 2 years or 5 years or however long it is, or 6 months, and say, well, gee, I made some progress towards this thing that matters to me and which excites me. And, you know, I'm being more loving, or I'm being more brave, or I'm being more whatever. So you're really designing yourself when you start asking the questions about who you're listening to and what advice you take and what you don't. It just boils down to who you want to be. And I think people take advice from people they don't like, and people that they just go, oh, they're successful, so I must want to be like them, because they haven't thought about it. Because they don't realise, not because they're numpties, but because they don't realise that you actually have to design yourself and you have to think about who you want to be. You're not just going to default into being someone that you like, because most of us don't have role models that we like. Really, we don't, you know? I mean, I can look back at my parents and know that I unconsciously absorbed a lot of really good qualities about being able to manage resources and be responsible and be artistic and creative and to work hard. I learned all of those things by osmosis because that's who they were. I didn't learn about love. I didn't learn about interpersonal relationships because they didn't have those skills just because of who they were. I learned how to study, I learned how to learn, I learned how to be brilliant, but I didn't learn how to love, and I didn't learn how to be successful with people. I had to learn all of that rather painfully later on in my life, till I started to get some skills. So we don't automatically default to being the person that we want to be. But unless somebody rocks up to you and asks you, well, who do you want to be and what are the qualities that you need to develop to be that kind of person, and you realise that it's actually a process of designing your life, you just carry on with the defaults you've got. And so, you know, if I hadn't started asking those questions, I don't know when I began. I did not know what I was doing. But if I hadn't started asking those questions, I never would have developed, I never would have grown. And the whole sort of self-development and, you know, growth movement and personal development thing, sure, it's come out of that. But a lot of it used to, I've got to be careful now, because I'm so out of touch, and that's okay. A lot of it used to stand on the thing of we've got bad feelings and we want to have good feelings. But there was so much that wasn't known about how come you have bad feelings, and that's because of who you're used to being. It's because of who you're used to thinking and behaving like, and therefore, as a result of your thoughts and your behaviours, having a feeling. And, you know, it's like feelings are just these things that happen to us and we have no control over them, but actually we do. We do have the ability to change our feelings. I've been doing that. And it's so empowering when you realise that you don't have to be a victim of your emotional state all the time. It's a skill. And for me, you know, I've been saying I really have found the switch. The fact that it's taken me 2 years to really find the switch, I don't mind. Because I lived without the switch for 52 and a bit years, or nearly 53, I suppose. And to have it now, it's like the beginning of a new life. And more I look back on who I've been, and I'm grateful for who I've been, because who I've been got me here. But to be able to choose who I want to be, and to craft and create myself and design myself and become the greatest expression of me that is inspired by the people that I truly want to emulate. That to me is, I don't have words to say how special that is to me, how precious that is to me, that I get to choose that I'm not stuck with everything that I think I have and just sort of randomly choosing people that I think, oh, well, they look like they might know what they're talking about, and inside it doesn't really fit, doesn't really feel good, but not understanding how to navigate that question. And for me, this is it, that you really have to think, who do I want to be, and how would I show up, and of the people that I know, is there anyone that I want to emulate, some part of them or all of them? And if not, can I look in the pages of history? Now for me, that was not a thing. There is nobody in history either that I really related to as a hero. you know, and that was hard. It was just this little person adrift with no one to emulate. But many people can look into history or even into fiction and find heroes, and there was no one. So for me to find someone to emulate has been a really deep healing, strange as that may seem. So that's my encouragement, is who inspires you? Who inspires you to be greater than you think you can be? And if you were to take the qualities that you like from that person and that person and that person and that life that was well lived and that life that you think, oh my God, that's amazing what they did. If you were to take those pieces and parts that you really like and become that, who is that person? And that's what being inspired by somebody means to me. It's actually that person. Something in me rises up and says, hey, I want to be more like that. I want to do that. This inspires me. This grabs me. There's something in this that's real and that resonates in me. And I've got no idea how I can be this. And it seems impossible. But at least it's real and I relate to this person in a way that's maybe something I can learn to become. So if you're taking advice from someone you don't like, you just haven't found anyone you do like. So look around. Take back your power to choose your own heroes, to choose who's speaking the truth that resonates for you, and choose the bits that really work for you and explore those. Carrie, it's lovely to see you. I'm just finishing. It's time to sign off. Very much love to you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.